it's God that can fix you. And the time that you go to him to fix, number three, the time for him to fix you is now. Now, if we have gone through this, some of us have gone through it and we are free. Please, let's talk about it. For people who are survivors, let's talk about it. Let's form a movement. Let's form a community that have been set up to, to break the chains that the devil is trying to hold, because this is like yoke, it's like bondage. The devil is trying to use it to hold people down. And some of these things, they are not real. They are not real. The devil just paints a picture and then use it to hold you down. So let's speak up. For some of us who have gone through it, let's stop forming saints, and let's be real. Let's be vulnerable, right?
Wow, thank you, Ade, for this opportunity to have a one-on-one chat with you, and we don't take it for granted. And I'm using this opportunity to welcome all our viewers from all over the world who have visited our channel once again to view and hear what this incredible lady has to share with us. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and of course to share so that the message can get to as many as possible. Right, so I got in contact with Ade a few, but actually we're in school together when we were, if I'm not mistaken. And he was an incredible person, somebody that I knew many young ladies were looking up to them. A few weeks ago, I saw a write up on one of our social media handles about how she overcame the trauma of sexual abuse. And I was like, what? What happened? So, kind of gave me a summary of what happened, and I said, no, this message has to get forward. This message is going to be somewhat deliverance. Alright?
Yeah.
It's an ugly experience that's eating into the society today. And I'm happy that so many agencies are trying to curtail it, cut down the rate at which it happens. So uh, thank you once again for coming on this. We don't take it for granted. Right. So
Thank
please
you,
tell us
Mr.
a bit,
Isaac.
yeah, so please tell us a bit about yourself before the ugly incident.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Isaac, for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here. And
Yeah, like
yeah, and it's part of my passion to share my story, to help people, and I'm kind of glad to be here because this is part of what I've always looked out for, opportunities where I can share my stories, my experiences, some of the knowledge and insights and lessons I've learned to help people, right? So I'm kind of excited to be here. Thank you for having me on your show. Yeah. So like Mr. Isaac has said, my name is Adeze. Basically, I'm a content creator. I'm a writer. I'm a microbiologist by training. He has already said it. We met in school. So yeah, in as much as we're not in the same department, but we're in the same college. So we had a lot of things in common, right? So but beyond my career, beyond what I have studied in school, like I said earlier on, my passion is to use everything that I've got to, make impact in lives, right? So, and to your question, prior to the sexual abuse, I was just a young girl who didn't have any secrets or any skeleton in her cupboard, right? So the sexual abuse happened when I was less than 5. I can't really remember exactly the age right now, but then I was less than 5 or about that when the incident happened. So before that time, I've always lived a normal life, not having anything to hide, and that's really it.
wow. That's good to know. So I wouldn't know. I am skeptical about asking this question, but to an extent, So essence, can you share or can you remember that young then? Can you remember what really happened? The essence you're comfortable with. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like the way you put it, to the extent that I'm comfortable with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
this particular experience is something that I want to share, right? But every time I want to talk about it, I still feel some kind of fear. Like, will I call it fear or kind of discomfort, right? Because it's not something that is easy to talk about. A lot of people don't talk about it, right? It takes a lot of courage to actually, come up to say some of these things, especially hearing it from the person that went through it, right? So if you heard it from someone else, you might feel, oh, it's not true. It might be, you get the idea. So, but having the person who went through it talk about it takes a lot of courage, right? So, like I said, I was less than 5 or about that. I can't really remember the age, but then it wasn't something that I intentionally walked into. We used to have a neighbor in our yard where we lived. So, and sometimes he would roast some meat. I remember that, right? Like he wanted to do suya. So, so yeah, something like that. So he would roast some meat like suya, like suya in Nigeria, suya. So he
Yeah.
would try to do that over fire, and then he would. I remember that he would walk into his room, right? His room actually led to the outside of the building, like so it's easy for you to get into his room and come out of his room based on the structure of the building. So he would just get into his room, open the door, and would be like, "Come and take suya." You understand? And innocently, I walked in to take the suya, and he locked the door. I will you're placing me on a very hot seat, should I call it? Because I haven't really talked about it. Yes, I've talked about it here and there, but I haven't been very specific like this, right? So, and then he locked the door, and he just tells me to lie down on the bed, take off my undies and all of that, and that will be it. At the end of the day, he will say, "Don't tell anybody, let it be between me and you," that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, and that was it. That was just the experience.
Okay. Okay. So for how long did this happen?
Well, it was just around that age, right? So, it was something that happened way back, but somehow that memory stuck with me, right? So it's not like it happened over the years. It was just around that time that, you know, I was pretty very young, may not be able to remember a lot of things, but somehow, I'm kind of able to remember this.
Okay. Okay. So what made it stick to you? Because I know that so many activities that happen when we're very young, we tend to forget what happened. But what made it stick? And then what was the after effect of such a memory?
Um, it was, it was an ugly situation, right? It was a dark situation. So if I may answer the question, what made it stick? I would say it might not sound very logical, but I would say probably because I would say the devil tried to, leave it there with me so that he could use it to haunt me. Right? It was actually it's not it's a past that is something that nobody can be proud of. It's not like you made first class and you have to talk about it, right? It's not like you killed a lion and everybody wants to celebrate you, or you achieved one form of success or the other. That's not success in any way. But somehow we stopped there because um I feel the devil wanted to use it to stop me from living my life in full, right? Because I wasn't even able to, talk about it. I wasn't able to talk about it, and I grew up with it. I grew up with it till my adulthood. I'll tell you, and growing up with it means I constantly found myself feeling guilty, right? Feeling fear, feeling filthy. I was feeling very dirty. Yes. In as much as I didn't live a loose life, right? And one of
Yeah.
the things I'm even yeah, one of the things I'm even grateful to God for is that, well, let me not even go faster than where we are going. But one of the things I'm grateful to God for is that He helped me, because some of that situation naturally will predispose me to having urges for sex and all of that, or push me
Yeah.
into the extreme kind of life. But somehow, God was gracious. But then I had given my life to Christ. I gave my life to Christ at a very young age, but I kept feeling that God has not forgiven me. I kept feeling that um I kept feeling that I'm not acceptable. I kept feeling there were so many things that should have made me feel good, right? But I kept having this low self-esteem, something just haunting me. It looks like the past was haunting me every time. Like, even sometimes I want to speak to somebody about something, and I'm just hearing a voice behind me saying, "Shut up. What do you even want to talk about? You that you were sexually abused when you were about 5. So what do you have
Right.
to say? Please close your mouth." And you know, I'm talking to you physically, but you don't even know that I'm hearing voices, right?
Yeah.
I was constantly hearing accusing voices. I kept dealing with it, and I couldn't speak out. That's even the intriguing part of it. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even talk to anyone about it. And every time I kept crying to God, "Have mercy on me, please forgive me," and all of that. But I couldn't get away from it. I couldn't get away from it.
So
And then,
so
yeah.
so so are you saying you were not able to open up to anybody at that point?
Yes,
Or
yes,
even if you did, at what point did you open up? At what age?
exactly. I kept praying. To answer this question, I kept praying that God would take this feeling of fear, of guilt away from me, right? And I didn't really know that God has forgiven me. It was just the devil trying to haunt me and all of that. And I
Yeah,
couldn't talk to
perfect.
anybody, like I said. Yeah, but it's lingered till after university, right? I kept dealing with it even after school. I know it can be psychologically draining and destabilizing. And so the point where my healing started was during one of my birthdays. I used to be very introverted. Always, most times, I just be on my own. And this sexually abusing thing contributed to it. So sometimes I remember the experience and I just become moody. You understand? So my emotions just swings. Maybe I'm just excited now, and immediately the devil hits me with it. Why should you even be excited? As dirty as you are. And then I swing back into that emotion of depression and not talking to anybody and all of that. And so on one of my birthdays, my sister, my immediate elder sister, God bless her, my immediate sister gave me a book as a gift. And that book is Why You Act the Way You Do by Tim Lahai.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
and I read that book, and prior to that time, with all of those experiences, I felt everything was wrong with me. I never saw any beauty in me. I never saw any goodness in me, right? So by the time I read that book, I was like, wow, so there's something good about me. There's just something good about me. And in that book, it made reference to another book, Spirit Control Temperament, by the same person. So it was actually that spirit control temperament that God used to start the healing process. I read
Okay, so
that book,
you
and
take a book and then went to and it referred you to one that really
yes,
did the work.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So the spirit control temperament, the why you act the way you do was like the preface, was like the introduction to the main thing. So it led me to spirit control temperament. So I had to get the book for myself, spirit control temperament. And by the time I read it, I saw that, wow, the first thing that God helped me to see was that He has forgiven me. One of the things that the devil tried to attack me was that God has not forgiven you. Do you understand?
Hmm.
So you are as bad as you can think, or even more than you can think. So from that, I read and saw that, oh, God has even forgiven me. Like He forgave me the first time I confessed it to Him. So, and this
Yeah.
is something I've constantly, every day I'm praying, God forgive me. Every day I'm praying, God forgive me. Every day I'm praying, God forgive me. And from the book, I got to understand that God forgave me the very first time that I asked for forgiveness. And every other time I was praying for forgiveness was the devil haunting me. Not that God has not forgiven me. So I know, and a series of other things, I now have to gradually embrace God's forgiveness. Remember, I said earlier on that I couldn't tell anyone about it. Not just that the abuser said so, but I wasn't proud of it. Like, I was too
Yeah.
scared. Being scared is an understatement, right? So I could only confess it to God because He's the only one I could talk to, right? So, and then I saw that God had forgiven me. I'm not my past. I'm not who I used to be. I'm not what happened to me. I'm a new creature in Christ. And then I started,
Yeah.
from that spirit control temperament, I saw this book of Romans chapter 8. So it was like my daily bread. So Romans chapter 8 verse 1, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus, for the law of the Spirit has set them free from the law of sin and death. So I constantly read that particular portion of the Bible. I prayed with it until it became my reality. This new reality didn't happen once. I tell you, I hear it today and I believe it. The next moment they tell you, yeah. So I hear it today, I read it, I believe it. The next moment the devil tell me this is scam. This thing is not real. Forget that thing. How can you? Do you understand? So, and I have to go back and cry to God. I say, God, I know you are forgiving me. So I kept confessing it, reading it until it became my reality. And then I thought that was the end of it. I didn't know that the devil was waiting for me somewhere else, right? So,
Really? Please share with us.
yeah. So, and I embraced it, and then I moved on with my life. I started, I became joyful, but then I still didn't tell anybody, right? I had
Okay.
embraced this new reality that I'm free, but I didn't tell anybody. However, I had now anticipated that, this is something that one day I will talk about, but maybe not to everybody, but probably to my spouse or something. You get the idea? Someone very close that I can actually, share it with. And somewhere after university, I had a suitor who came to
Okay.
seek my hand in marriage, right? So, and we got talking, we talked different things, but I didn't tell him about it. Not because I didn't want to share it or because I was afraid or something, but I just said, we can talk about it anytime. You understand? The lessons I learned in that particular phase of my life is something I can share another day. Let me not just you know boggle it up in this particular video, right? So, and I I got along, we got talking, and I didn't even see it as something to hide. He's already known me to an extent that I'm a Christian, I love God, this, that. We talked about everything, but not it, right? And we talked to the extent that he was now like, okay, can I come meet your people and all of that and all of that? And I was like, it's okay. It was at that point that, you know, one day I thought to myself like, maybe I should even talk about this. And what even led to that was one day he just called me out of the blue. Is that, is there anything I'm hiding from him? And I was like, hide what? And is there anything I can really? I didn't know what from then to ask that question. But I felt like I'm not hiding anything, and this is me. I'm not hiding anything, and truly I wasn't hiding anything, and I didn't even think that this was something I was supposed to share at that point. I just felt we can talk about it anytime. You understand? By the time he asked me that question, is there anything I'm hiding? I said, no, I'm not hiding anything from you. You get the idea. And we're not living in the same city. So after the call,
Okay.
I thought about it. I'm not hiding anything, but probably I can talk about this now. And then another fear rose up. What if you tell him and he says he's not
And he
doing
did.
it again? You get the
Eh,
idea?
I think I think this fear is something that we need to sensitize women about. You guys always afraid to share things.
In fact,
When is that?
yeah,
When
yes.
scared?
In fact, I feel we need to do a video on probably what to talk about in relationship and all of that.
We'll make it happen some other
Yeah.
time.
So and then I I said, well, maybe I should talk about this now. And then the fear, because this guy was really my spec. You know, when you say somebody's spec, like he's
Yeah.
intelligent, he's tall, he's dark, he's handsome, he loves God, that kind of a thing. And then I said, okay, yeah. So I didn't want to lose him. That's the truth. And then I felt that fear again. Should I talk about it? Should I not talk about it? And then I prayed. And I told God, I'm going to tell him this. If it is your will that we go on, help him to, accept it and then we'll move on. But if it is not your will, let your will be done. Right? I'm saying it with ease now, but it was, I made that prayer in a combination of courage, fear, uncertainty, not knowing what next to expect, and all of that. But I just had to, do that. And one day I called him, and it was even encouraged. I was encouraged the more to tell him, because I felt, oh, this person has said I love you, so he really loves me, and he's going to take it. Do you understand? So, and it's something I've not shared
Yeah.
with anybody. That's even the painful part of it, because yes, and it's something I hadn't shared with anybody, and I felt I should share with somebody who truly loves me, who I can trust. I mean, it was a step of trust, like I could trust him with this information. And then I called him. I said, there's something I want to talk to you about. I want to tell you. He said, okay, go on. And then I told him that I was sexually abused when I was 5. Whew. The first thing was silence, and the next thing was series of questions. I mean, just like the Bible says, questioning me of things I really don't know. Like, yes, he asked when did that happen, and I told him around 5. I'm not exactly sure. So he didn't believe it. He didn't believe that I can't remember all the details. So that was even another hurting part for me. You understand? So he didn't believe that I didn't have all the details. And then he started asking me several questions about virginity, non-virginity, things that I didn't really know. Like I said, I didn't live a loose life, so there are things that I don't even know about. And you're asking me those things, I don't know. You understand? So, and when he asked and I said, I don't know, he was not like, you are very intelligent, you're a science person, so why are you now acting naive, like you don't know? You understand what? Truly, I didn't know. And honestly, I'm telling you, it was a very shattering experience for me. Someone that has believed that I'm a new creature in Christ, all things have passed away, and just all of a sudden, your past just shows up. Your past just shows up to scatter everything that looked like it was a sealed deal. So after I told him that, the guy stopped talking to me. Somebody that will talk to you a number of times in a day. Yeah, somebody that will naturally talk to you a number of times in a day. He just stopped talking to me for like 2 weeks. I didn't hear from him and all of that. Yeah, over that. And I had to now summon courage to, chat him up, because we're not living in the same city as at that time. So, and I chatted him. I said, what's up? What's happening? This is not like us. I'm like, he started talking, blah, 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 blah. That, when somebody begins to talk somehow, you get to know. Remember, I said I hadn't told anybody. I was still trying to manage the thing by myself. The next thing, my sister called me. You understand? My immediate elder sister called me, and she said, what's happening between you and so and so? In my head, gang. That means the cat has been let out of the bag. You understand? Yes, actually. So, and she was like, what's happening between you? And I said, well, nothing. Everything is fine. And my sister said, calm down. You're trying to form for me, right? You're trying to do cover up for me now. When did you learn that? Because I've always been open. Interestingly, I've always been very open to this, my sister, but I couldn't even tell her about it. To tell you how imprisoned I was, I couldn't tell her about it. And she said, what's actually happened? And and at that point I had to now open up, and I told her. She said, what? This thing happened to you and I'm not aware? I said, I'm so sorry, I didn't know how to share it and all. And it really broke my heart that even the person that I trusted her to let the cat out of the bag. And my sister said, thank God for who she is. My sister said, no, you shouldn't break it down. I've known you all your life. You have always loved God, this, that, that, that. She was now the one that was encouraging me. She said, no, don't feel down and all of that and all of that. At the end of the day, the guy said he was not going to marry me again because of that incident. Isaac.
Is that the right person?
Now,
The back.
After that, I mean, that incident shattered. Like, I felt the feet of my soul were crippled. I mean, that was the peak of the time I've ever felt rejection. I felt rejected. I felt like I couldn't wake up to face life. I couldn't wake up to face life. My past just showed up to haunt me. And then I started crying. I if you see me that time, I emaciated. Like it wasn't a very it wasn't a pleasant experience, I can tell you. And then I went back to God and I was like, God, what's up? What's going on here? Where did I miss it? Where did I not miss it? I cried, honestly. But God allowed me to go through that phase of crying, mourning, and then he came back to now let me know why he allowed me to go through it. He should have stopped it from happening, but he allowed me to go through it. And one of the reasons he gave me that made him to allow me to go through it is this, so that I can be able to talk about it and help others. Prior to that time, I wasn't there. Yes, prior to that time, I couldn't talk about it. So it was a strategy for him to bring me out of that shell of always being afraid of my past. So he wanted to bring me into the place of where you can talk about it and not feel ashamed. I've saved you. Talk about it and not be ashamed of it. Prior to that time, I knew I was saved, but I was still ashamed. I knew I was saved, but I was still ashamed, right? So he had to bring me to a point of saved and unashamed.
Wow, this is good. I believe that situation right now, you have laid down steps, the book to read, the verse of the Bible to read, what to do to really overcome such situations. So that I would like to ask, do you think the society is doing enough to curtail this? If they're not doing enough, what strategy should they imbibe?
Okay, just to add, at that point, at my early stage of healing, I read 2 books, Why You Act the Way You Do and Spirit Control Temperament. Now, at this phase where I had this breakup, not because I did anything wrong, but just because of my past, I struggled so much. And one of the things that also helped me was this book written by Joyce Meyer, Beauty for Ashes. So, one of the days that I was yes, Beauty for Ashes. One of the days I was confused. I didn't know what to do. I just left the house, just walking around, and then I walked into a bookshop. Another bookshop somewhere in one of the streets, and I didn't know what I was in. I was just looking on the bookshelf, and then I saw Beauty for Ashes by Joyce Meyer. I just picked that book, and that was how I bought it. And I saw, in fact, it was a veritable tool in the hands of God, during my healing process. So and then I started listening to Joyce Meyer's tape. I mean, this woman is one of the people, or one of the ways, let me put it as a way. She is one of the ways that God used to heal me. I saw her talk about her past, because she too was sexually abused by her own father. So I saw that she talked, yes, she was abused by her own father for over 15 years of her life. And in her own situation, her mom was aware of it. Yes, her mom was aware of it, but she couldn't do anything about it. Like, she knew that her husband was abusing the daughter, but she couldn't save her. So it was a double, in Nigerian laid back English, double wahala for her. being abused by the father, not saved by the mom. So, and it was very traumatic for her. So I heard her. I had to now, I listened to her teachings again and again and again, where she talked about it and how God helped her. And those were one of the ways that God used to help me. Now, to answer your question, the society is not doing. If you ask me, the society is not doing a lot, especially in Africa and particularly in Nigeria, to the best of my knowledge. Like, a lot of people don't talk about these things. I'm telling you, if
Yeah.
I hadn't heard Joyce Meyer's story, I don't know how I would have coped. Maybe God would have done it in some other ways, but she was a veritable tool. So I feel that as we should, as human beings, we should stop in Nigerian laid back English again. We should stop forming. Let's come out real, right? If we have gone through these things, let's talk about it. Because sometimes when it happens to somebody, you might feel that you are the only one that thing has happened to. But when you hear another person's story, you'll be like, oh, this thing has happened to another person, and you're able to draw inspiration. We should come out of our shells and share our experiences and how we're able to navigate through it, and so that others can be helped. And just in case you didn't go through it, when you hear other people's story, or when people are courageous enough to talk about it, let's not stigmatize them. There's a lot of
Yeah.
stigma going on, and it's because of the stigmatization that a lot of people are not even talking. Everybody wants to
Exactly.
feel good, everybody wants to present the best part of them, but the world is
Exactly.
not even allowing us to be real. The world is not allowing us to be real. So, as much as possible, we should create that environment of love, that environment of where someone will feel safe to talk about it. Because one of the things that, I think one of the things that made me not talk about it was I wasn't sure. I was uncertain about what I was going to receive. Do you understand? Maybe if I had
Mm.
spoken about it as a kid, probably instead of my mom, because then, I grew up more with my mom. So probably she might sort of had to, okay, what happened? How can we help you? She might, beat me up and then make matters worse. So let's deal with one trauma. Right? So let's give people, yes. And and for years I've practiced teaching. I'm not actively in the classroom now, but I can tell you, I think it's a good place to share one of the experiences I had as a teacher. When I was I was teaching a particular class. That's the basic six, we call it. These children were about, you have them 9, 10 years in their class, and thereabout. So one of the days, one of the two of the girls that was in my colleague's class, not directly in my class. So two of them were having a conversation, and my colleague just came and called me and said, just come and hear what these children are talking about. And I called two of them and I said, so tell me, I want to be part of the gist. What are you people talking about? And one now said, Mr. Deze, it's just that I was seeing blood in my pants, and I had to now tell my friend to help me check it in the classroom. So my colleague overheard it and called my attention to it. Honestly, I have already, I could sense what was going on at that point. I said, okay, I'm going to take you to the school nurse, but by the time you get home, tell your mom. And she went, no, Mr. Des, I can't tell my mom. You can imagine that. So she's not free enough with her parents to be able to communicate some of the changes. We're not talking of sexual abuse here. We are talking
Okay.
about you're seeing
But
something that is not normal in your body.
okay.
The first set of people you should have communicated with are your parents. But at the end of the day, you are not communicating with them. You are communicating with someone else outside. Now, bringing it back to sexual abuse, let's assume that young girl went through sexual abuse. Do you think in that state of mind she can be able to tell her parents? I'm not sure. So as parents, as siblings, as teachers, as human beings living in the society, please let's try to make it easy for people to speak up. And when people trust you enough to share some of this confidential information, we should treat it with utmost respect.
Sexual abuse goes both ways. But it's just
Sure,
it's
sure.
high on the list part.
Yeah.
So I want
Yeah.
to ask, do you have any personal plan on probably sensitizing young ladies or the society at large about sexual abuse?
Yes, I had already said it earlier on in the video that one of the things that and it came at that point where the secondary phase of my healing, after I had gone through the breakup and all of that. So, and God brought me out of it. So um from that experience, it's obvious that I'm out to talk about it. In fact, in the month of July, I organized an outreach program for young um, for young teenagers and adults. So we had over 50 women in attendance and some young teenagers. So
Wow.
where we yes, so where we absolutely. So where we talked about these things. I know when they hear, when they, some you don't really know how people see you. Like they look at you, oh, this person is very disciplined and all of that. And when they now hear that you went through this, they're able to now, yes, they are now able to come up to tell you, oh, I even have a boyfriend. This is what is happening. Do you understand? It now helps them to come out open and speak up. So yes, I have such plans and I've already started it. This is also part of it.
That's
On a norm,
telling.
generally, yeah. So on a norm, generally, I wouldn't have even, talked about it if it's not already a passion. It's not just a plan. It's a passion. It's something I'm passionate about, and by God's grace, we'll go all out to help other people, whether male or female.
Wow. This has been a fantastic session. And I want to especially thank you for pouring out in such a manner. Uh, Before we go, I would like to ask what is your final word to society? Because I don't want to say to the ladies or to the guys. When I say society, it encompasses all gender and all ages. It's not about whether you're a kid or you're
Yeah,
adolescent or
yeah,
at different age or status, you can experience sexual abuse. So, what is the
sure.
final word?
Okay, so I would like to start by talking to people who have been victims of sexual abuse. Now, by extension, any form of abuse. Some people would have gone through domestic abuse, verbal abuse. Some people, maybe growing up, they were always locked up in by their parents. Probably their parents didn't allow them to live a free life. Yeah, I've seen adults like that. They talk about it that as children, they were not allowed to enjoy their childhood. So you see them as adults, they are doing things that children do. So by extension, anybody that has gone through any kind of abuse, but particularly now, we are drawing strength from sexually abused people. They are not victims, just something that happened to them. First of all, I want to tell you that whatever happens to you is not your identity. It's not your identity. It's just an incident that happened. It's just part of, like you say, you went to market to buy something. It doesn't change anything about you. So it is just an incident that happened that does not have the ability to change anything about you. Now, um, what you let me put it in this way: nobody has the capacity. Nobody has the capacity to label you a thing except what you label yourself. nobody
For sure.
nobody's opinion really matters in your life except your opinion. I mean, people can have different opinions about you. Oh, you were sexually abused. That's okay, that's their own opinion, but is that your real identity? So your real identity is the one you give yourself. So if you end up giving yourself identity of, oh, I'm a sexually abused person, I'm a domestically abused person, then that becomes who you are. But if you see it as
Becomes
just an
reality.
event, yes, it becomes your reality. But if you see it as an event that happened, it will remain like that. So, and if you see it as an event, draw strength from it, learn the lessons you need to learn, and move on. Now, learning the lessons and moving on is not going to be easy. It takes only God. I tell you, you can go for counseling, you can read any book like I read, but the starting point and the ending point of your healing process is God. So yes, see it as an event. Go to God, let him fix you. He's the only one that can fix you. There's nobody else that can fix you apart from God, right? If you go to any other person, they will end up multiplying your problem, probably, especially when you go to the wrong person. Oh, yes, we
Yeah.
encourage, of course, we encourage counseling. Go through counseling, but make sure you go through the right counseling. Speak to the right person. I mean, this may sound out of context, but let me just say it here. During the time I was doing my youth service, we went for one outreach, and one of the girls asked me, she said, "Ma, is it true that if I don't sleep with a boy now, when I get married, I won't be pregnant?" You can imagine such lie. Yes. And this is somebody that has a parent, but she couldn't ask her parent. At the end of the day, I, drew that conclusion that she was given that information by her friend, a senior friend in school, who told her, maybe because she had some guys, chiking her, like we say in our own generational slang, right? Yes, and the person is telling her, you just have to do it, because if you don't do it, you are not going to give birth to a child when you get married. But that's a lie. Then in this case, she was getting counseling from the wrong person. But thank God we had opportunity of speaking with them, and she was able to get the right information. So yes, get counseling, but make sure you get counseling from the right people. If you get counseling from the wrong people, you are going to multiply your problem. Just take an instance of what happened in the scripture. I'm a Christian. I'm a Bible Jesus girl. So I would, if I make reference to the scripture, it's not out of place.
Unapologetic.
Right? Unapologetic. Right? So there's this story in the Bible about when Moses went to meet Pharaoh, and one of the signs he gave him was producing frogs everywhere. And Pharaoh had magicians. He called the magicians to take away the frogs, and the magicians ended up multiplying the frogs. Instead of taking the frogs away, the magicians multiplied the frogs. In that case, the magicians didn't solve the problem, they only multiplied these problems. So seek counsel, seek help. But the first place and the surest place to seek help is from God. By the time you go to God, he will now lead you strategically. He will lead you to people, or maybe books, just like he led me, right? So he will lead you to books, to materials, to tapes, whatever that will help you navigate through such situation and be healed. Now, the next thing I want to tell you, if you have gone through it or if you're going through it, is the time to make up your mind to be free is now. You can't leave that situation to keep oppressing you. Yes, you can't leave, because that was one of the issues that I had. It kept tormenting me. You can imagine, from less than 5 till way above adulthood, like 20 something years of my life. You can imagine going through that. And like I said earlier on, some of these things will prompt people. Some of these people you see that are maybe sex workers or whatever, I don't know how they call them, but when you listen to them, some of them, it started from this particular thing. Somebody molested them, and then it became a habit. They couldn't get out of it. I've heard stories of people who went through masturbation and all of that. It started from things like this. So the time to make that decision to be healed, to be delivered, is now. Now, taking from the story that I just mentioned about Pharaoh and his magicians, by the time the frog multiplied everywhere, he saw that his problem was not solved, and he said to Moses, "Pray to your God to take away these frogs." And Moses asked him, "When do you want me to pray to my God to take away this frog?" And he said, "Pray to God tomorrow." Can you imagine that? Why not? Why not say pray to God now? I mean, the moment that we are sure of is our now. We are not sure of our tomorrow. We are not even sure of the next moment. So when is the best place for you to be completely delivered? It is now. Or you're still going through it. When is the moment for you to make a decision that this thing that is holding me bound is not going to hold me bound again? Probably you're still even struggling with it. Maybe you find yourself masturbating, going back. Sometimes you're just on your own looking for who would have sexual relationships. I've seen people struggle with that. Like, they're on their own, the urges are there, like the urge is there. They're not looking for anybody, just anybody. Let this urge just go away. So the time to make up your mind to be set free, to be delivered, is now. So I've said 3 things. You are not what happened to you. You are not what happened to you. And you only have the capacity to identify, to give yourself an identity. Number 2, is God that can fix you. And the time that you go to him to fix. Number 3, the time for him to fix you is now. Now, if we have gone through this, some of us have gone through it and we are free. Please, let's talk about it. For people who are survivors, let's talk about it. Let's form a movement. Let's form a community that have been set up to, to break the chains that the devil is trying to hold, because this is like yoke, it's like bondage. The devil is trying to use it to hold people down. And some of these things, they are not real. They are not real. The devil just paints a picture and then use it to hold you down. So let's speak up. For some of us who have gone through it, let's stop forming saints, and let's be real. Let's be vulnerable, right?
Talking
Moses
about
met
that,
with,
so,
yeah.
talking about that, the program you are or the movement you started, is it how does it run? How can we have access so that people can
Okay, so I for now, currently, I just do it periodically due to the nature of my work. I don't have all the time every time. So, but every opportunity I have, I try to organize programs. Especially for women of all classes, including mothers, right? Because sometimes we need, mother figures. It's not necessarily mothers, but people who we look up to as models to help us. So I organize programs where we talk about some of these things. That's just what I do for now. And although I hope to, there are other things we need to do. Maybe this is not the best time to let all the plans out, but let's talk about what we are doing for now. So we organize programs, outreaches to school children, because I feel that's another place. Because I've been a teacher and I've seen some things happen in school. So we organize outreaches for school children, primary, secondary, for now, and then every other person we can get in touch with or bring into this umbrella to help make the world a better place.
Okay. I think that what we're going to do is we're going to share your social media handle
Okay.
on the video so that people can follow you, so that whenever you're organizing such, they can always see you and connect. Is that okay?
All right. Yeah, that's okay. So my social media handles is very my social media handle is one unique for all. On Facebook, Adeze Nwanko, on Instagram, Adeze, and then my YouTube channel. So that's it.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing and for pouring out. I
Yep.
think going to school, the idea is just documenting. We need to start sensitizing secondary schools, because I feel that's where the main thing is happening.
Sure,
So,
sure.
but we're going to talk about it later and know how we're going to talk about it.
Yeah,
Thank you
I'll
so
be
much.
I'll be glad to be part of that movement. You're welcome. So
Thank you
let's
so much.
I appreciate.
Uh,
Let's go out. Let's share love to people, and in the presence of love, fear disappears. Yes. So let's go out, share love to people. Let's be kind. Let's be kind to people. You really don't have idea what people go through or what they are trying to deal with. So, but in the spirit of kindness and love, we'll be able to revive dying souls. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And for our viewers and my returning subscribers, thank you so much. This wouldn't make sense if you guys are not there. Alright. So if you've not subscribed, do well to subscribe and share this message. And of course, let us know what you think in the comment section. Thank you so much. Till we meet next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.